Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. I have a very special guest here for the show today. Can you go ahead and announce to the world who you are and where you're calling from?
Yeah, my name is Brenda Neckvatal, and I'm calling in actually from the Virginia Beach area.
Oh, great. So tell me about your past, your extended past leading up into your present.
Yeah, absolutely. I am a recovering human resource professional, and I've been doing HR for about 30 years. And what I do is I help leaders cut through the workplace drama so that way they can focus on what's important and build high performing teams. And so like I said, I've been doing this for about 30 years now. And I started off as an HR sprout a long time ago. But I was really fortunate to have been brought in and really kind of raised under the wings of some pretty good mentors. But that didn't happen at the beginning of my experience, it happened in the middle. And so I had a pretty awesome and very kind of humbling experience about figuring out what my leadership was going to look like, my skills. And what I found is that I was very good at just kind of figuring out patterns of like human behavior patterns at work specifically. And so I had some really great think leaders. I had some really great mentors that had a skill set of talking to people in a really very effective way. And that kind of opened up the door for me to figure out my own path.
Well said. And how many people have you helped?
Oh, my word. I think the easier question to answer is I've consulted now to over 600 small businesses in, I would say, the matter since about 2011. So I've seen a lot of different things done a lot of different ways.
Okay. And how did your mentors help you?
Um, my mentors helped me because first off, probably the biggest thing that they helped me with is that I was pretty rough. I grew up like I'm a Gen Xer, right? I mean, we grew up different. Like, you know, when we first started our jobs, we were taught it's like this is how you do it, and if you don't like it, there's a door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. And we were taught under no uncertain terms, right? So it was very direct. It was, you know, it was just different than what we see out here today. And it made me into kind of a very edgy person. I had a lot of rough edges. And even though I was very direct, I was also very critical, very judgmental, because that was the kind of thing that I saw growing up when I first started going into the workforce. I've been talking about like getting my first official W-2 job when I was 15 years old. And so I didn't have a lot of positive experiences. I didn't have a positive role model. I didn't have people that were very thoughtful. And so it wasn't until I got in. And one of the first things that I was very grateful that they did is that they actually recognized that I had some pretty spectacular gifts. We all have gifts. We're born with innate gifts. And so they capitalized on what I was good at. That was the first thing. The second thing that they did is that they also saw where I could make significant strides. And then they started to help me hone those edges so they were actually much smoother. And then along that process, there was a lot of trust that was built between us. And that's really organically how it should look. And so I was very fortunate to have people that say, hey, listen, we can trust you with this, go out and get it. And, if you get stuck, give us, we're here for you. So I had all of the elements that honestly felt, without even realizing it, that really help you fall into learning what you need to learn and growing and developing.
Tell me about your very first W-2 job, or not even that. Tell me about when you said to yourself, you know what, I'm tired of this job. I want to do what I'm doing now and what you're doing currently.
Yes. Well, believe it or not, that's happened a couple of times. And all I did was just refine myself along the way. So if we want to start where it really first began, where my big transformation happened, it was about it was in 2000, to be honest with you, 2000 and 2001. So I've been in retail for a long time. I'm not in retail now, but my path was in retail. And so I was a store manager and I was the fix it person. Like I could be put into a store that was not doing well, fix the problems between employees, the infrastructure of the actual store, leadership, management, and but I wasn't the one that was the person to lead it for the long term, to nurture, right? And so I was the fix it person. So I was always put in fix it positions. And then I found myself in a situation to where our company actually closed. And I wound up working with liquidators, and it was not a positive experience. And I was pretty fried at that point because I could go in and fix things because I was good at that, but I really didn't want to always be known as the fix it person. Like I really wanted to grow and lead a team and have something solid for the long term. And so even though we were making sales numbers month over month over month, I wasn't happy. I was tired. I was fried. I was like, I didn't have a team that I connected with. And that can ride you emotionally. And especially for somebody like me, who's like a major people pleaser, that doesn't go very well. So I actually took a step out of management, and I just wanted to do basic stuff. Like I just wanted to just give myself a break. I had to work, but I, was in a position where financially we could actually do that. And so that's what I did. And then that's when I wound up going into a situation where I started learning all this stuff. At the end of that 8-year span, working for that Fortune 500 company, I went back to school. I finished my degree in human resources. Um, Thank you. Got my minor in leadership. I took the 20-year route, but that's all right. And when I came out, the company I was working for, it was funny because I that company that taught me all this really great things actually had to downsize. So I had called a friend of mine who was in another retail outlet. I said, hey, listen, I think it's happening. I said, we've seen the writing on the wall now for about a year. And then I wound up working for him and his company, which is also another Fortune 500 company. And I came in as, again, the fix-it manager, being put in the most horrific store, and then a year later transferred to the top reigning store. But I told him, I said, when I come into this, I said, you got 2 years for me. I said, and if I'm not in an HR position, I'm out. I said, I'm going to start looking. He's like, totally respect that. So then I wound up getting a little fried and tired of that experience. But then I picked up another job, this time with ADP, working in the human capital management. And that's really when I had the vast amount, well, at least half of, I think when I left, I had consulted to 320 companies, and that was just in just a little under 5 years. So with the right tools, with the right support and everything. So it was awesome. And that's really where I got to test out a lot of theories and development, and like, hey, if you try and say this is going to work. And it happened through the, not only from my own experience, but actually grew even more from the wide variety, the large repertoire of, employee issues that you wind up dealing with on a regular basis. So it's a lot of personalities, a lot of different ways of thinking, being around those people. And that's really kind of how it is. So then I knew I needed to get back in the seat again to continue to grow. I thought I had the ambition of becoming a chief of human resource officer. I got all the way up to the vice president position. Wow. Maybe it was the company I was working with. Maybe it was the type of work. I don't know, but I'm like, oh, this is not for me. And I stepped out. I wound up just jumping in, going back to what I knew. And life has been awesome for the last 6 years. It's had its ups and downs. It's had its challenges, but now I really dialed in on what I'm really good at.
But you sat up there and through the whole thing, the ups and downs, you kept pushing, and that is amazing. Some people give up.
Yes, they do, very easily.
How did you notice human patterns? And tell me the time that you noticed human patterns in your life.
I saw the same thing happen over and over and over again. So when somebody's trying to hide something, it's like, when you diagnose a cold, like the symptoms are the same, Well, it's the same thing that happens when you have somebody that has a hidden agenda. Like there are, like, you know, they're clues. And so when I started seeing the same type of behaviors, completely different situations all across the United States, to be honest with you, when I would get phone calls or I'd get inquiries or something, I'm just like, there's a lot of similarity in this. I'm like, we're going to try this. And sure enough, man, I was right. I'm like, okay, yeah. Now, every now and again, like I'll be caught off guard and I'm surprised. That's okay. It's a whole new learning experience. But yeah, you just, if you quit, you completely, you like, look, everything in life is either a lesson or a blessing, right? And if you miss the lesson, you miss the blessing.
That is so cool what you just said. Oh my God, I never heard that saying before.
Yeah, Steve Harvey says it a little differently, but I think of it as like if you miss the lesson, you miss the blessing, right? That he says life is either one or the other, but I think that they're both.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Wow. You know what? I wanted to know, you know, the about the book you have
Yeah.
with the Navy SEAL. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So I met my business partner in this. So I'm writing a book with a friend of mine, and we met 4 years ago. Yeah, it was right in the beginning of COVID. And he's a retired Navy SEAL. I do a lot of work with Navy SEAL career transition from being active duty into the civilian workforce through the Honor Foundation. I've been doing that 8.5 years now as a coach. And so I went to a funeral for a friend of mine in Utah and with another SEAL, and Will showed up. And I was like, oh, another SEAL. Okay, got it. So we became fast friends very, very quickly. We started working together every week and being accountability partners. We meet every Wednesday. And we've been doing that now 4 years. We haven't stopped. We've never stopped. So we started writing a book together a year ago, and it's called Mission Ready: Building High Performing Teams from the Battlefield to the Boardroom. And Will takes on the first half of the book, and he talks about some leadership principles that he learned while he was in the SEAL teams. Then I take on the second half of the book, because once you start laying down principles and you start moving in a direction, you start leading your team in a certain way, the human dynamic is going to start showing up. So I talk about what you're going to expect and kind of give some helpful tips on how to deal with that. So we're pretty excited. The book is dropping on August 10th. He and I are going to be in New York City. He's swimming the Navy SEAL swim. It's a fundraiser for Gold Star families. Yeah. So he's swimming the Hudson from New Jersey to New York City. I know, right? He's going to come out with like an extra head or something. This is like you had a Navy SEAL coming out of Hudson. No, they do this every year. This is the fourth time that he's now done this event, and I'll be up there with them. And one of these days, maybe I might actually do the swim as well, but we'll see.
Can I ask you a question? What do you get out of helping people through difficult problems as a business leader?
I get two things. Aside from being paid, that's one of them. The other one is that honestly, I just like to see people. It's amazing to me to watch somebody transition when they really take on individual change. And it's hard, right? And the reason why people don't like change is that when things change, it disrupts a level of mastery that we're comfortable with. And I think a lot of people mistake. I hear people when they talk about change that it's, people get complacent. Well, yeah, maybe. I think they do as well. But a lot of people who are on the level, really straightforward, good individuals, the reason why we don't like change is because we've identified mastery, and it makes our life easier when we can do things over and over and over the same way. So when change comes into place, I mean, just think about social media, right? Facebook comes on and they change how they do things, and we all get frustrated because we don't know where the buttons are. And now we're not seeing the same things that we used to see all the time. To us, that was a level of mastery, right?
Yeah.
And so helping people figure out what the new level of mastery is with individuals, working with individuals, it's really awesome to watch somebody come into that. Some they're going to have days where they just kill it and they do a great job. And then there's other days where they're just like, well, I messed that up. Now what do I do? And, you can't nail it every time. It's just impossible because the human dynamic is always different. But there are things that you can do that can help you navigate it.
Do you think you helping people, that is why you probably don't feel burnt out, because of the fact that you're helping people through the same situation you went through when you didn't have a mentor, and you were the mentee, trying to figure out what kind of mentor you wanted. And I was just wondering, is that why you love your job other than the money part? I mean, yeah, you're making money, but just think, you helping them do things that you had problems with when you were in retail and other things.
I'm actually going to answer that question and say no. That's not the reason why.
Oh,
And here's why. I have been in the field of human resources to where, again, I've not only consulted about how to deal with people, but I've also consulted on the technical side of it, right? The tactical side of it. And I'm also really good at that as well. I can help you understand employment law. I can help you understand how to navigate it. We can sit there and mash over stuff. I can tell you about all of the HR strategies. Here's the thing. I don't love it. I don't love that part. And so when I'm trying to help somebody do something that I don't love, or that they don't necessarily appreciate, that gets very frustrating for me, because I'm putting myself out there helping somebody else, regardless of whether I get paid for it or not.
yeah.
Here's the thing. When it comes to the people side of the thing, it's what I'm organically good at. And I never used to be that way. And it wasn't until I figured out how I operated, then I started figuring out how I operate with other people. And so now I'm helping people solve a problem that matters to them. Before, look, HR is not sexy. We can call that out there right now. And it's actually changing. I've been watching it change again. I've seen it go through a couple of kind of different cycles. And so now, a lot of HR people don't really realize what we can do and we bring to the table, and how we can impact the financial bottom line of a company in a very positive way. Today's rising leaders understand that you can just go ahead and outsource human resources. And you may not necessarily get the same kind of tactical and strategic experience as somebody like, for me, who's been around doing this for a long time. So I shifted because I was tired of, having people who really don't care about human resources as a business utility and as a business tool. When I'd share the very best of what I had to them, they either never exercised it or they didn't have the same level of appreciation. And I have a policy. I'm not going to get more excited about your success than you are. That's not right. Then I just get invested emotionally.
You
And
wrote a book? Did you write a book? An influencer book? Oh my God, that is so smart.
yeah,
You're a very smart woman with
thank you.
what is it? Titles, like statements, what you be saying, like it's very, very, very intelligent. I have to say that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And so, helping people solve problems that are a real problem to them, is what lights me up, because I
Wow.
watch them change, I watch them shift, and then I watch them succeed. And leadership is one of the greatest gifts that you can give people. It really is. It's one of the best ways that you can serve the world, is to lead through it.
And tell me, that's speaking of being smart, you've been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, Fast Company, and US News, and probably many more. Tell me about those days, and how you feel. Like, Forbes is not cheap. In the magazine, but not Forbes. Tell me that.
Yeah, I've been able to participate and be cited and quoted and featured in a couple of different articles. I think I'm up to about like 4 or 5 now. Um, I just make myself available for that kind of a service, and whatever I can do. Now, I used to write for Entrepreneur magazine, on the .com, on their website. So I've got a couple of articles out there, but mainly it's now just contributing, when there's a need for it, which is pretty awesome.
Wow. You sat up there and you was in retail 14 years, and you done a lot of things to help people. Tell me what I can't say what do you get out of helping people because I asked you that question. So how about this? We're gonna revert. You have the floor to help people for 3 minutes. If you had to help somebody out there watching for 3 minutes, tell me what you would say. Well, go ahead and say what you would say and how you feel about helping people and giving them advice.
Yeah, the first thing I would do is actually ask them more questions than probably give them answers. And sometimes, believe it or not, that actually shakes out in their mind, like, oh, okay, I hear it. Like, do I need to see, like, that happens? It's like, like, okay, so tell me about this and tell me about, and then they hear themselves say it and they're like, yeah, I kind of know what I need to do now. So that, believe it or not, that is a thing. But usually what I ask people is like, what's the number one thing you want to see come of this? Because that gets right to the heart of the matter. So if you're calling me, like anytime somebody calls me and says, I have an employee issue and I'm really upset, I'll ask that's the first question before I even know any of the details. I'm like, what's the end result you want to see of this? And then I know what they want to do right away. And then we can start talking through that. So if it's like, I just want them to stop. Okay. So then what we need to focus in on is addressing undesired behavior and have them flip it around into desired behavior. So now we've got a pipeline and a focus for that. Sometimes they're like, I want them gone. I'm like, okay, so let's talk about why and what do you have in place to make that happen? Because if you have somebody that's violating policy or, being just a raging pain and not wanting to jump on to, doing what they're supposed to do, then we need to talk about that. And then other times, like if they can't articulate it, they're just simply frustrated. And it's like, okay, let's talk about how we deal with you and how you're handling all this. Because I think once you get some clarity, because they may not know or recognize what the problem is, but they know that they're upset. It's like, let's talk about that. So it's usually kind of those three avenues that we go down.
Do you do webinars or coaching sessions for like multiple people?
I do actually. I get contracted by a number of webinar companies. I have a curriculum that I actually teach amongst all of them. I've also incorporated, I'm in the process of putting those out available myself as well. So that way, if there's, one of those companies isn't teaching it, then, it's available on my site. And, and I also offer a free course I give 3 scripts on how to actually kind of cut through some of this drama pretty quickly. And people can actually connect with me and get access to that on a very simple website. Because as you notice, my last name is not easy to spell or pronounce. So if people just go to yobrenda.com, that's yobrenda.com, then they can go ahead and get access to the Impact Scripts course. And that's a really great place to start, because I just gave you one of the same scripts that I talk about. And that is, what do you want to see coming out of this?
You have a lot of quotes. That's why I said 3. I was listening and I heard 3. So tell me, what's the heritage behind your last name?
It's my ex-husband's.
Oh, wow.
I don't know. I never changed it. So it's Czechoslovakian. So
really?
Yeah, that's his family lineage. And so the original spelling of it was Nech, and that is supposed to sound like a K, but his dad changed it legally from an H to a K. So pretty much anybody has the spelling in that family, they're all related across the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unique. So, whether you married or not, it's a unique name, and
I'm the only one in the country. I'm the only Brenda Neckvatal in the country. I am not hard to find.
Oh my God, I knew it. See?
Yeah, it's a very unique combination. I told a friend of mine, I said, getting married again, I'm like, he's going to have to understand that this is Brandon.
Where do you see yourself going in the future? This is the last question.
Yeah, so I'm working on building the coaching program, which allows leaders or anybody really who's struggling with, like, people who work with coworkers. I mean, this isn't just limited to business, although that's, where it's really kind of dedicated. Building a complete leadership survival kit that has all of the courses that help people navigate through difficult people, and starting from building skill sets from hiring all the way to, interviewing and developing their team. And it's it's just kind of like a 360 type of thing. I'm planning on actually writing another book next year to drop that focuses on entitlement, because that is an issue in this country right now. And so I don't plan on stopping. I'm also a serial entrepreneur, so I have other type of business interests as well. So I stay very busy in a good way.
Yeah, you do. How can
Yeah.
I complete you, Brenda?
Thank you. I have to start figuring out where I'm going to fire myself here on all these little tasks that I have.
No,
I think accounting. No, I think accounting's the first one. I don't want to do my books. I don't want to do them anymore.
Tell me, how can the people find you, Brenda?
Absolutely. So, like I mentioned earlier, you can connect with me at yobrenda.com. That is the easiest way. That is going to get you into my ecosphere, and it'll actually put you over to my main website as well. That will show you all of the things that I've got going on, in addition to some other blogs and other helpful tools that I have available for navigating like all this stuff. So the big program I'm looking forward to dropping here in the next probably about 2 months. and so if you get into my ecosphere, you're gonna hear all about it.
Well said. Thank you so much, Brenda. I won't say your last name, for joining the show. I see you guys.
It's Neckvatal. You're good.